this hour with a gentleman who's been on the program before. His name is Mike Cross. We're going to talk about psychopaths. They seem to be running rampant. It's almost like there's an epidemic, some kind of an unknown microbe or virus or airborne bacteria. The people of this culture today bear scant resemblance to those of 30 years ago. It's a whole different game, and it's not a pretty one. Contextual morality is now the basic underlying bedrock of interpersonal relations. People just do not feel accountable for anything. They're not responsible. They're always victimized. They are the victims. And boy, if you get in the way of their victimhood, they'll fight you. It's not my fault. Well, I didn't do it. We got a whole political system full of that kind of psychopathy, and it's only getting worse. And I do not have any answers as to how to fix it or how it got this way, except I do believe it was sown into the populace on a number of different fronts, and I think that it's rather obvious if you look at it that it is. Psychopathy, politics, media, and control, and they're all linked together. They're like quadruplets. Hello, Mike. Welcome back to the program.
Hey, hello, Jeff. How's it going?
I'm not sure, but thank you for asking. Doing my best, as they say. It's just really crazy out there. We're at war. We're really at war economically already with Russia. Ukraine is now being dragged under. Um, Porky and the Rat have declared war on Ukraine, the eastern part of the country. We could be at a major Middle East war footing, not just with ISIS and ISIL, but with Ukraine and the Southern Caucasus tomorrow morning. It's that bad. It's that crazy. Tell us what you've been watching and how things have been progressing since the last time we talked.
Well, for starters, I just wanted to mention that when we first talked, I had one book, a fictional book, I will note, Freedom from Conscience, published. It's now the third one in the series is out. Fictional, uh, a fictional exploration of psychopathy, because I think that that's what really people relate to is the emotions. They relate to being able to read a story. I mean, that's how we our ancestors conveyed information and so forth. So,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a fun way of presenting what psychopathy is all about in a way that also people can actually understand without reading some sort of academic paper, which
That was quite a statement. A fun way to present what psychopathy is all about.
yeah.
Psychopathy can be fun. That's a bumper
Well,
sticker.
in a way, in a
You
way,
got to
it,
understand it. You know what you're saying is true. Unless you understand what psychopathy is and how people really don't have the moral constraint or the feeling that they are responsible for their behavior and their actions, and they can't just dish it off to someone else or a circumstance, we're not going to get very far. Not moving in the direction I'd like to see.
no, because unfortunately, most people have a feeling that everyone thinks the way they do. I mean, when you look out at a crowd, you're thinking that all of those people out in that
That's
crowd.
right. It's the strangest egocentrism is
Mhm.
collective egocentrism, and I don't understand where it came from. But you're right. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, I think that, well, we just assume the best in people. I mean, most of us aren't paranoid. And we're not looking at people like, oh, I wonder what that person's thinking or how they're going to manipulate me. And then you do hear about someone going to jail and they mention, well, this man or this woman was a psychopath. Then in our minds, we start equating that, okay, psychopaths are the kind of people that are just way different than we are and they wind up in jail. That is not the case.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. You know, the less intelligent ones probably wind up in jail. They're the ones that can't really learn to control their impulses. They get in a barroom fight, they kill someone, they
Right.
get angry at their wife or their husband.
Well, they have flash anger. They can be
Mm-hmm.
violent, certainly verbally violent. They can also be physically violent, and they tend to try to dominate those around them by aggression. That's the best word I can come up with. Verbal, physical, it doesn't matter. Intimidating behaviors. They are extremely aggressive, and
Mm-hmm.
yelling at someone is a form of terrorism and abuse, and it can break people down. We've all heard of the Stockholm Syndrome. There's that involved too. This is all over our country,
Hmm.
all over the place now.
Well, it's worldwide too, but I would note the thing is the ones that are the ones that can't control their temper, the ones that go off the handle, we spot them pretty quickly. But there is a subgroup of psychopaths that often encompass the group what we would call cerebral psychopaths who have actually learned how to control their impulses because it gets them what they want. Now these are the ones that can set goals. These are the ones who can say long range, they could be like 10 years
Those are
old
the
and they're going, I'm going to
dangerous
be
ones.
president of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's their goal. And they will go for it. Just like a shark is designed to eat and to, every part of its body is used for predation, the psychopath's mind is set the same exact way. And these are the ones you got to worry about. These are the ones that you see you tune into the State of the Union address or something like that. Look at the crowd. You're seeing a lot of psychopaths out there.
Yeah.
You turn on some sort of entertainment show and you're watching your actors and actresses. You turn on the nightly news and you're watching the people that are paid millions of dollars to sit there and tell you what to think. You're looking at psychopaths. Those are the ones you got to worry about, not the guy that's going to beat up his best friend at the bar because he thinks he's cheating on his wife.
How do we get here? How do we get into this state?
Well, I think we've been here for a long time. That's why the founding fathers believed that we should have separation of powers between the executive, the judicial, and the legislative, and so forth, because they knew there were people that were like this. Maybe some of them were like this too, and they just knew this is a way to constrain power. You also didn't have a media, though, that could convey a message to everyone at once because most people got their information from reading. In today's society, you have a mass media that they don't have time to deal with issues. You get the 30-second or whatever soundbite, and this is the ultimate environment for psychopaths and sociopaths. This allows them to get on and use the charm, which is actually one of the characteristics of psychopathy, to be able to use their charm and to say something real fast, and then the people have been taught that that's what counts. Oh, he said something really brilliant. He must be the best person to be president. Without thinking about, well, what is it he really said? It just sounded cool. It was like, hey, he made a home run. He made a touchdown in a verbal statement, and I guess he's going to be our leader. Idiocracy. I mean, that's where we're heading to.
And idiocracy. Oh, indeed. And backed up, reinforced, and absolutely impregnated into the very core of society through the mainstream media,
Mm-hmm.
which is now not the news. It's not even entertainment. It's programming. It's mass social programming, and it is not to be denied. There are very few people who can withstand it, who can step away from it and pull their consciousness back into themselves and not have it laid out on a table in front of them, which this media will then use any way it wants. I've never seen, and I've been watching a little bit of commercial television lately, I have never seen more insidious message mongering ever. They have it all. They've got the visuals, the colors, the camera angles, the zooms, the pans, the switch pans, reverse zooms. It doesn't matter. The close-ups, the shaky camera, the camera never stays still. It's constant amphetamines in terms of your sensories. Little children especially. Talk about sensory overload. How do they have a chance? I mean, they don't really.
Well,
They're hooked on the stuff, and they can't sit still in the classroom, and so they're drugged into oblivion.
I've said this before, and I hate to say it again that it's almost better that your kids be watching movies like Terminator and stuff like that than be watching children's TV. I mean, seriously. I mean,
Well, I don't have a problem with that. Uh, I think that's a fair analogy. Children's TV now is predicated on this, again, pace that is so fast and so vicious. Children don't have a chance to sit still. They don't have a chance to really discover themselves or learn what life can be. They are 10 or 12, they get their first smartphone or cell phone, and it's goodbye. Goodbye. Try to reel them in from that.
Yeah.
They go into withdrawals. They'll fight for it. It's all predicated on self-worth, peer pressure, self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a smartphone and you get messages, you've got worth, and you've got peers, and you've got friends. If you don't get the kind of activity you like, you begin to get depressed. Believe me, and you will do anything it takes to get on to the fast track. You've got to be on that loop, and if you're not, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean we're heading into it. I don't think we're heading. We've been there for like the last few years. Where kids now they go to school not to learn, but to show off what they've bought on TV or what style they have. And
Oh, there's very little learning. It's all rote regurgitation. That's all it is. It's not positive. It's not proactive thinking. It's not creative thinking. It's not working really toward goals. There are exceptions to this, and those kids have obviously extraordinary parenting, wonderful parenting.
mm-hmm.
They couldn't withstand it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But that it takes an active uh, effort on the part of parents or even individuals to withstand what I'm not going to call psychopathy when it comes to the general population. I believe you have to have a genetic predisposition in order to be a psychopath. But it is a type of narcissism, which is related to psychopathy, that has been created in Western culture that means that well, it's perfect for the consumeristic society because if you can create a nation of narcissists, you can sell them anything whatsoever, be it shoes, clothes, handbags, or politicians.
Yeah, narcissist without portfolio is what I like to call most of them. They're really seeing themselves in the mirror as they aren't. They don't really understand who they are. And how can they? They've assembled these masks that they carry around in front of them from all the different little pieces of pop culture or peer pressure or peer culture, and they create something that they think will be marketable, that they think will make them fit in, that they think will make them popular. But it's not them. They never really develop. They talk about arrested development. I see it all over the place with kids.
Well, not just with kids now. I mean, you see 35-year-old men
Well,
living
it's the
with
first generation of adults now too. Absolutely.
yeah, there's 35-year-old men living with their mothers and playing video games all day and just having a part-time job to support whatever spending money they need.
And that's where they're going to sit for the rest of their lives, many of them. These video games are so malicious, so vicious, and so realistic that you literally lose touch with reality. You cross over into that netherland of video reality, which isn't real, but it is well, if you look at the screen, it's real. I can't believe what some of these games have been able to accomplish technologically. It is extraordinary.
No, you just wait. I mean, if you look at, I mean, every scientist predicts that
Oh,
in
they're
20
going to say
years,
5 or 10 years. No, 20? Oh,
yeah,
the rate it's going now, 5 years, and there'll be, no, this is going to be zombie nation. That's it. Drooling zombies, nothing less. There'll be a few examples that'll stand out, but most of the people won't have a chance.
but I will say this though, this is the scary part. The people that are that like 3% of men and 1% of women that are genetically prone to psychopathy, that will even be even better for them. I mean, what's better than being a wolf when all your sheep are just sitting and in a daze?
Easy pickings.
Mm-hmm.
Easy pickings. No contest whatsoever. Agreed. If you're smart and you're a psychopath and you have it figured out, you got it made.
Yeah, it is an irony. It is actually an irony that the one positive thing you can say about psychopathy is that these people they resist any kind of authority and peer pressure. That's something that's almost ingrained in them. Many
True.
people have to fight for it. These people are
True.
yeah, but they feel that since it's not just that they're going to be the rugged individualist and live their lives as they please. It is more like they know how to cope in the society, but they also have a sense of wanting to control. So therefore, they won't just stop and think, okay, this is my little corner of paradise. I'm going to live out here in Montana or something. No, they're going to try to
Yeah,
gain
they want
power
to
and influence.
expand that control. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere they go, they want to control. Now, a lot of them come from backgrounds where they have had little or no control as children. Some come from very, very poor homes where they've been abused and beaten and so forth, and they spend the rest of their lives trying to regain the control that was completely stripped away from them as children. And there's nothing more terrible than I can only imagine than a child who at the age of 4 or 5 or 6 has everything taken away from them in terms of their dignity, their self-worth, their control. What do they do for the rest of their lives? They try to recover it. And who are their targets? How do they line their nest? Anybody who's weak enough to fall under their sway.
Oh, absolutely. And if you take a look at the world today, you can see what the results of that are. I mean, you cannot describe our foreign policy today without actually knowing something about psychopathy. I would encourage all your listeners to actually go and just look up Hare's checklist of psychopathy. You read through it.
Spell Hare's.
It's just if you type in HARE and then psychopathic checklist.
Okay.
And if you do that and you read through that list, it's going to surprise you because you're going to see what a political consultant would see as the perfect person to run for political office.
Yeah, well, we've got quite the psychopath in chief sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue now.
Oh, but he got the Nobel Peace Prize.
Talk about, well, I'd rather see you get it than him. You'd probably deserve it. Here, you talk about narcissism. I mean, there it is, Class A.
Hmm?
Absolute.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any diagnosis of politicians, but I would actually say that if you do have someone who has psychopathic traits, but it tends to bend towards the narcissist part of the triad, what they call the dark triad of psychopathy. That's the more dangerous because their persona is who they are. What they have created, their image, is who they see themselves as. Therefore, if that is challenged by a politician from another country or a politician within their own country, that's when you may see some rather irrational, illogical behavior. The one that, I mean, often psychopaths are almost to the point of being super rational, which is kind of scary because that means they have no empathy towards other people because they're just looking at it in a Machiavellian sense, like, well, if I do this, this gets me this objective. And if that means a few people go, well, a few people go. But a narcissist is more likely to be like the 2-year-old child who doesn't get their way. And that is what's scary.
How does, in your view of things, how does insecurity and fear and anxiety of others figure into narcissism? Are they strange bedfellows or are they mutually exclusive?
It kind of depends on whether a person is a narcissist or, again, they lean more towards the narcissist or the psychopath.
Narcissism or fear of others? What drives them? I guess that's the question you have to ask before you
Yeah,
make a determination.
it's not so much a fear of others. In fact, psychopaths and narcissists are least likely to be scared of others. They're more likely to be scared of losing who they feel they are. So they're very scared of losing a goal. So therefore, when a politician who's a narcissist or even a psychopath gets up in front of a crowd, they know what to say to get the crowd, to seduce the crowd. They know what words. Hmm. Oh yeah, when you hear a politician get up and say, "I really care for the working man and woman of the country," and then they pass legislation like NAFTA or something like that, that means that they know that that factory is going to close down once this legislation goes through.
That's right.
I mean, come on. They're able to smile and hold, take your hand and shake it and comment on your beautiful family, knowing full
Perfect
well.
politician,
Yeah, they know full well you're going to lose your job in 6 months once this legislation goes through. And then they'll come along and say, "Hey, I'll help you get a new job." I mean, and they know it's not true.
Okay, so how do we teach this to young people? How do we begin to teach something that is verboten in the schools?
Well, I first think I did a video. It was called, oh gosh, what was it? Plato's allegory of the cave applied to modern society.
We got a break coming up here in another minute or so, but let's hold off on that. And when we come back, we'll do the allegory of the cave and explain what that is. A lot of people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Reading is dying. There's not much more reading left. It's all staring and reacting, and that's pretty scary. When you have a nation of drooling, reacting consumers who just don't get it, and who are also under stress and anxiety and fear, and they are, you've got a very, very unfortunate mix, and that's where we are in this country. Now, that's not to say everybody, so don't get me wrong, but it's not a good situation right now, and it's been brought about through planning. It's not an accident. It didn't just happen. It's been planned for a long, long time. And my God, that the technology that they have to use to inculcate this into people is, it's 20 years down the road from where you think it is. I personally believe that the grid is something that is also carrying electromagnetic signals that can influence people. There are also EMF towers, of course, cell phone towers. There are lots of different things. I think HD TV is suspicious. I think something has happened to television since HD took over. I think HD stands for something else than just better resolution and definition. There's something going on. It's not the same as it used to be. Hang on a minute, if you would, Mike. We'll come right back and continue talking as we roll along on this Tuesday night. The allegory of the cave. Mike Cross is our guest. Tell us about that, and let's walk through it, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, I have a long description at my website, michaelcross.net. But essentially, to be brief, the whole idea behind Plato's allegory of the cave is giving an illustration that there's a group of people in a cave. They're chained. They're like slaves or something. And they are not able to see the real world. But they do see shadows cast by people that are moving things across from behind, because there's a fire behind them, and they see the shadows, and they start making a reality of the various images. Now, one of the slaves is taken out into the real world. They're released, and they go out, and it takes them a few minutes for their eyes to adjust to the sun, but then they see what the real world is like. They're given a glimpse, and this gives them this sense of awe, and of course, as a natural human being, they want to go down and release their captives they've grown up with and bring them out into the real world. The problem is, when they go down into the cave, everyone thinks they're crazy. They think this person's insane. They might even act violently towards this person who's trying to disrupt their view of the real world in their eyes. And this is a really good thing to expose your children to, although I think there's a lot of adults that could use it too. And they can understand that because it's a story. Like I said, stories touch our subconscious. Plato and Socrates and those guys understood it.
Sure.
And also our modern media understands it too. That's why they give us the stories with their implanted messages. So anyway, show your kids that this is what it's like to be different, because kids naturally, because we're a tribal species, want to fit in. Well, the dominant tribe today is Hollywood, Madison. Yeah, Hollywood.
They have to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You see teen suicides because they don't fit in. They don't think they do, and they're ostracized and excluded, and then they die.
Yeah, because most of the time they've never been. I have to say this though, a lot of those kids are not given the survival mechanisms in which they can actually make it.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean you're given a society.
No.
We're given a society that actually creates. It's almost like if you think about the animals that are raised in factory farms. That's a story in and of itself. But those pigs that can't even turn around, they're just, their whole life is, that's kind of like the allegory of the cave. And this is the way we are raising not just children, but it works. I've seen it work on elderly people. They suddenly are confined. All they have in life is TV. And you'll see someone who may have had certain ideals and values and a very strong sense of identity. After a few years of just sitting and watching TV, they're quoting all these entertainment shows, and they're just totally sucked in.
Becomes their lives. Yeah.
So they're kind of like the people that might just go back in the cave, sit down, and put the chains back on. but kids need to be taught how to not conform, and also how to feel good about not having to conform to what the prevailing public school in America, the television and movies, and of course their peers who, well, that's their reality. Facebook, Instagram, children's TV. I mean, that's their reality.
Where do we go from here? You got medicated kids, you got unofficially medicated kids, you got toxified kids from food, you got one-parent households, you got gangs, so to speak. I mean, I'm not necessarily talking about big-time inner-city gangs, but just groups. Everybody's got a clique, a group, and they're gangs is what they really are. You're in a gang, you're in a group, you're in a circle of friends. In many major cities, as I've said many times, they'll turn their cell phones on at night and daisy chain them all together, and they'll leave them on right next to their ear while they're trying to sleep, and they'll wake up and talk back and forth, and then they'll go back to sleep, and this is really not healthy. And it goes on, and nobody even talks about it.
Yeah, well, I did another recording. Again, I'm not trying to plug, but if you just go to Michael Cross on YouTube, my channel, I have all these. But I did one recording on actually what we can learn. This kind of sounds going to sound ironic in this context, but what we can learn from psychopathic traits. And there are some traits that we could employ. Now, that's one thing. The shark doesn't want you to learn how to be a good shark. The wolf.
Well, they're defensive, and there's nothing wrong with learning to be defensive.
Absolutely. We have to be as able to resist just blind obedience and authority as these people that are genetically, or whatever combination of genetics and environment, develop psychopathy, because we actually have the empathy and the remorse and things like that they don't, but we can still learn from it. We can learn that you don't have to totally just give up your individuality and become part of this crowd, because I mean, come on, I'd rather be the lemming that's going, I'd rather not do this, than the ones that are like, oh, come follow us, hey, here's just this little river, let's cross it, and it happens to be the Bering Strait. So that's the I think that's one biggie. We need to really teach what the society is doing to our children, to the children, not just as adults sit around saying, oh yeah, this is what's going on, while your kids are sitting and watching the whatever garbage is coming across TV. But teach them, and once they learn that, I've seen it in my own family, once they actually see these things, they become immune to it.
How? Well, yeah, they do become immune to it, but when you are exposed to electronic media literally all the time, and then what's the conversation mode when you're not around it? You're talking about the electronic media, or sports, or something simple. We are fading fast as a culture here, and I see no real legitimate way to turn it around. Maybe there is a way. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I'm watching. I'm watching carefully. Hold on just a second, Mike. We'll come right back with more as we continue with Michael Cross. About 12 million Americans are sociopaths. I would suggest that's a conservative estimate. Psychologist Martha Strout, who clinical instructor in psychiatry at Harvard Medical School for 25 years, estimates in her book, The Sociopath Next Door, that as many as 4% of the population are conscience-less sociopaths who have no empathy or affectionate feelings for humans or animals. 4% might not sound like a whole lot, but using this as an example, that means that 12 million Americans are sociopaths. Because sociopaths are ruthless and will squash their rivals and burn institutions to the ground in order to receive largesse and reach their goals, but they're great at pretending that they are truly caring about people. They are incredibly destructive, all in all. Sociopaths would have been discovered very quickly in a small group, but in huge societies like ours, they can rise to positions of great power and influence. Look at Washington, D.C. to find out. It's all over the place. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that if you'd probably have a much greater per capita of psychopaths, sociopaths. I don't really see much of a difference between the two. They overlap, so it's not like you have 4% of people are sociopaths and another 3% are psychopaths. It's about 3% of the males, 1% of the females. But you're gonna find a much higher per capita. There was recently a study that listed what jobs that attract people with these traits, and it's surprising. One of them was clergy, was one of the top 10. Then you had politicians, of course, and you had certain types of like emergency room doctors, journalists, and of course people in the performing arts. These areas that you're able to get a lot of attention and be, more grand, so to speak. Some of them don't go out and want to become, emperor or something like that. Some of them, like, they might just prefer to be the person that's always on the front cover of some celebrity magazine.
Well, we've got that. We have a lot of other things. When you talk about celebrities, everybody wants to be a celebrity. Unless you're a celebrity somehow or some way, even amongst your own local social circle, you are lacking. That's the message, and it's really difficult. I don't see how young people can go through adulthood, young adulthood, and come out of this and learn much because they're surrounded by the same people they grew up with. They're malformed, they're deformed, they don't have the ability to see the big picture and pull things together, weave them into a cohesive unit. They just stumble along and they just don't seem to care. Not all of them, not all of them, but this is a common thing now. Why should I care? And I couldn't even imagine teaching high school now. So many young people they know they don't have to be held accountable. No child left behind. Teachers have very difficult jobs at best. And I'm not surprised that more of them, well, I am surprised that more of them don't quit.
Hmm. Well, I think ultimately, before the break, you made a comment about the society's kind of gone too far, and I'm inclined to agree. But we also have to look at it like our own individual societies, our own families, our own social network, so to speak. I hate to use the word social network, but the people we know, the ones we associate with in our house of worship or just friends and stuff like that. If we can maintain ourselves in this culture, then of course I think that that's what's important, because the culture itself, you've got so many forces marshaled against you right now, and that's not even talking about the scientific technocracy. I mean, you're talking about alpha waves, beta waves, stuff like that on TV. But you do have I think most educators just go along right with, teach those people in the cave those shadows are reality. The government wants you to believe those shadows are the reality. One day, you take a look. One day, we're supposed to be. It's just like 1984. We're supposed to be friends with this country. They're our allies. No. These are these people are like Hitler. They're evil and all this kind of stuff. And people just go along. A lot of them go along with it. Not everyone. I think the internet and alternative media and stuff like this is actually what is needed. People, expose your friends to reality, and I think that is what you need to do on the grassroots level. And at least, if 3% of the population can take us this direction, then if you've got 10 or 20% pushing the other way, I think you would have some really positive results.
enslaved to a political system which will take us nowhere, means nothing, is not responsive to the will of the electorate, is not responsive or responsible to anybody except the controllers. We know who they are pretty much now. We're a corporatocracy.
Mm-hmm.
This is a corporation. It's not a republic anymore. We've lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell the average young person, they won't understand it. Ask them some very simple, basic questions about life around them. They don't know. They don't know. And their vocabularies are shrinking. They're no longer teaching cursive handwriting. They're not teaching the arts. No one has to read anymore. Cliff's Notes was the beginning of the end of reading. So, I mean, just postponed it. You can read Cliff's Notes and get by with almost anything.
Yeah. Well, again, I think if we start in our own families and groups, that's the answer. And take it, look at it this way. Here's maybe something that you could see as a real benefit. If the people around you actually have a strength to be able to resist this, then they're going to be in a better position to compete in this world, in economics, romance, any of these kinds of things. So I think that's the way to look at it. Is the society is going one direction? Try to teach those around us how to get away.
Now, when you write your books, what are you trying to do? How are you trying to inform people about what's going on around them?
What I try to do is,
first of all, writing is a very difficult thing to do for anybody. It's not easy.
Well, what I tried
used to call it the loneliest profession.
Yeah, well, what I try to do is try to take what I know about, personality traits and stuff like that. Of course, also with uh, my own political and social philosophy, and integrate that into how would, and actually in my books, Freedom from Conscience books, the heroine, it's a female, she's a psychopath, but she also has at least the ethics. Not all psychopaths are out there to kill you. Some do have a good home that will teach them ethics and so forth. And I venture to say, many of our heroes out there probably do score very high in the psychopathic traits as well. It's just that they have an ethical base that at least means that they're not going to be doing evil while they're out there gaining their goals. And if you could see the world actually through what a person, how they would actually see if they were indeed psychopathic, it's much better a way to convey the message than, okay, well, this is the traits, take a look at these traits, how they check off. That's boring. People don't relate to that. They do relate to a storyline in which a person's interacting in the real world.
We have just a couple minutes left. I don't know what kind of a message you'd like to leave for our younger people. We've got some very, very bright young people who listen to this program. They know that things are wrong. They also know that they're shut out of the control mechanism, which is the mainstream media. So they've got to do it one person at a time, basically. The internet is helpful, but the internet is a big lie. People lie on the internet. They present something that they're not. It's a fraud. And I don't think social media is healthy. I think people should stay away from it unless they have some business or financial reason to do it. I just don't buy it. I don't get involved with it.
Okay, my number one message is dare to be yourself. Dare to actually.
Well, that's a great message.
That's it.
But how do you do it when you've got nothing to hold you up?
Well, then hopefully
If you've not been brought up in a good household, a good home with good parental values and fallback data, when you get into a situation you can't understand or control, how do you fall back onto nothing? You can't.
Well,
So it's hard. All I'm saying is it's hard, and I think it's never been harder. And as each month goes by, and the social media and smartphones become more and more dominant, my God, where are we going?
yeah.
There's no reversing of this. It's not going to happen. We got to go all the way down and out the other side. And what's left then, I have no idea what it's going to be like, but it's coming very fast, very, very quick.
Mm? Well, best of times, worst of times, I guess you could say, in many ways, and just have to grab onto the benefits that the societies, the technology, and so forth is going to bring us, without allowing yourself to be shackled.
Well, that's something that most people won't tolerate, to be shackled, and yet they are pushed along as a group and made to think very similarly. That's comfort. That's the comfort zone, and people want to find that zone, and they want to get in it. And they want to just float along, ride along with the current, and have a good time. It's really what it's all about. The work ethic is not there like it used to be. No big surprise. It just isn't. And so what you've got are people who don't understand the work ethic. And to try to teach them that at the age 20 or 25 is it's almost impossible. It's tough. Tough situation out there, Mike.
Yeah, it is.
But thanks for bringing it to our attention. And keep up the good work. Good luck on the books. I hope they sell. I hope people read them. And I hope they begin to think for themselves. That's what we need more than anything.
Oh, absolutely. And thanks for having me on, Jeff.
Okay, Mike. You take care.
Okay, you too. Bye now.